Hello, welcome to Today in History. My name is Sotonye Afiesimama. We'll begin in our usual tradition, our usual fashion, by rolling back the blind to the year 1813, so exactly 207 years ago on this day. We had the Battle of the Thames. Now, this Thames isn't the Thames of London. This Battle of the Thames in Canada. So on this day, 1813, during the War of 1812, presumably this war lasted about a year, a British army with some 1,000 Indian allies under the famed leader Tecumseh was defeated by US troops in the Battle of the Thames in what is now Ontario, Canada. What I found fascinating about this picture, apart from the soldiers in red, obviously a painting, are the leaves on this tree. The trees around, which, let's see, get the name of this tree now. For some reason, I've forgotten the name of the tree. But the leaves are the leaves that were used to design the flag of Canada. Maple leaf is called. As you can see, and this, will I call it a collage? Yeah, could say that's a collage of leaves, collage of maple leaves, cleverly used to form the Canadian flag, which of course is this. So anyway, I don't want to take you off the main message for today. The real information is that the Battle of the Thames took place on this day. This was the day British troops were defeated by US troops in what is now Ontario, Canada. We move on to the year 1877, and Chief Joseph, pictured here. He was an Indian chief. A small band of Nez Perce warriors under the leadership of Chief Joseph surrendered to General Nelson A. Miles after holding off US forces that had tracked them through Idaho, Yellowstone Park, and Montana. A little bit more about Chief Joseph. He led his band of Nez Perce during the most tumultuous period in their history. I guess Nez Perce were a tribe of Indians. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you know anything about the Nez Perce, just drop a comment below. So this was the most tumultuous period in their history when they were forcibly removed by the United States federal government from the ancestral lands in the Wallowa Valley of northeastern Oregon onto a significantly reduced reservation in the Idaho Territory. A series of violent encounters with white settlers in the spring of 1877 culminated in those Nez Perce who resisted removal, including Joseph's band and an allied band of the Palouse tribe, to flee the United States in an attempt to reach political asylum alongside the Lakota people who had sought refuge in Canada under the leadership of Sitting Bull. So this is interesting that we had Chief Joseph trying to escape, and then the Battle of the Thames, which happened 64 years earlier. Quite interesting. So they tried to escape to Canada. The Battle of the Thames also happened in Canada as well, even though it was between Indian allies and Indian allies who were allied with the British Army and US troops. Anyway, let's move on now to the year 1882. So on this date, 1882, American professor, physicist, engineer, and inventor Robert Hutchings Goddard was born. So he's the one pictured here. He's credited with creating, as you may have guessed, and building the world's first liquid-fueled rocket. Goddard's work as both theorist and engineer anticipated many of the developments that were to make spaceflight possible. He has been called the man who ushered in the space age. Move on to the year 1929. On this day, a lady called Autherine Lucy Foster pictured here. She was born in 1929. She was the first African American to be enrolled at the University of Alabama in 1952. When school administrators found out her race, she was denied admittance. I chuckle at this because it's just shocking how rife racism was a century, well, this is way less than a century ago. This is 1956, and even afterwards, there are still issues with race. I mean, even up to today, maybe not as bad, but it's still, very, very evident, in the U.S. I lack the right word now to use at this point in time. Okay, I'm going to read a bit more about this lady. So she was denied admittance because of her race, but re-enrolled in 1956, so 4 years later, after a 3-year court battle. Can you imagine? They had to go to court for 3 years to make sure that this lady was treated fairly, even though the Constitution of the United States had been amended at the time. Equal opportunities for everyone. You were not treated badly because of your race. That was also already enshrined in the Constitution, but to carry out the practice was another problem. More violence on campus led to her expulsion after 2 days by university officials, however, under the guise of protecting her safety. Okay, I'm going to read this again. More violence on campus led to her expulsion after 2 days by university officials under the guise of protecting her safety. Lucy briefly traveled as a public speaker at civil rights meetings and rallies. So that's Autherine Lucy Foster. So I'm going to read what's on this plaque. It says, first African American to enroll at the University of Alabama following successful litigation under the historic 1954 Brown versus Board of Education ruling. She began classes on February 3, 1956. However, after 3 days of tumultuous demonstrations on February 6, she was suspended and later expelled by the university's Board of Trustees. Now, I'm going to stop briefly here for a moment. I did mention the first African-American High Court judge in the United States. I think he was involved in this case, this Board versus Brown, or Brown versus Board, versus Board of Education, I beg your pardon, ruling. Yeah, I'll go check that out. But I think this was one of the big cases that he was involved in and won. So I'll continue with what's on this plaque. So, however, after 3 days of tumultuous demonstrations, on February 6th, she was suspended and later expelled by the university's Board of Trustees. The expulsion was rescinded in April of 1988. In December 1991, Miss Lucy completed the requirements for her master's in elementary education. This achievement was a culmination of her original dream to attend the University of Alabama and paved the way for countless others to fulfill theirs. Authoring Lucy's courage made the University of Alabama truly one for all. Excellent fight, lady. Authoring Lucy Foster. 1932. On this day, another African American lady, another trailblazer, was born. Her name was Ivonne Burke. Born on the 5th of October, so on this day, 1932, she's an American politician and lawyer from California. She was the first African American woman to represent the West Coast in Congress. She served in the U.S. Congress from 1973 until January 1979. On March 29, 2012, she was nominated by President Barack Obama to serve on the Amtrak Board of Directors. So this is Ivonne Burke, who was born on this day in 1932. Another trailblazer, another African American trailblazer. So fortunately, she is no longer with us. Our hearts go to her family who will be remembering her today, and her friends and loved ones. Okay, let's move swiftly on to the year 1961. And this movie, Breakfast at Tiffany's, premiered. The American romantic comedy, an adaptation of Truman Capote's novella, had its world premiere. It became especially known for Audrey Hepburn's performance as the free-spirited Holly Golightly. So that's Audrey Hepburn pictured here in the movie romantic comedy, Breakfast at Tiffany's. Let's move on to the year 1969. On this day, Monty Python's Flying Circus, British television series, which proved to be a watershed for TV comedy around the world, premiered. So Monty Python's Flying Circus debuted on the BBC on this day in 1969. A year later, 1970, the Public Broadcasting Service in the United States began broadcasting on American television, and it became known for various programs, notably the children's shows Sesame Street, which I fondly remember, and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, starring Fred Rogers. Yep, Sesame Street was one of the programs that I grew up with, and I listened to a video on YouTube a few months ago where this guy, I'm trying to remember his name now, Canadian mixed race, Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah, he did touch on Sesame Street and how it was designed to basically train children effectively. For lack of a better word, it was done in such a way that it to get the best out of children. I'm trying to remember the details now. Well, obviously, it's quite a long time ago, but it's something I'm going to look into again. But yeah, Sesame Street was, it wasn't just some comedy show or some program just thrown out there. It was very, very well designed to appeal to children and help children learn faster and better. With counting, Mr. Count, who used thunder. When the clappings of thunder, if you like to do his count. He made counting fun, and personally I have done that with my kids as well, to try and make learning fun for them as well. So it's something to look into. If you have kids, try make learning fun, try and stretch them as well. Don't think that there are things that are beyond them that they would not understand at their age. Just keep pushing them, and it'll pay huge dividends in future. Okay, so don't hold back. You don't have to be a trained teacher. You don't have to know everything to be able to teach your kids. Right, let's move on to the year 1975. Kate Winslet, born on this day. So happy birthday to Kate Winslet. Who is Kate Winslet? She's an English actress who was known for her sharply drawn portrayals of spirited and unusual women. So, happy birthday, Kate Winslet. She is 45 today. On this day, sadly, we lost Steve Jobs. And this logo, this new Apple logo, a slightly altered Apple logo, was a stroke of genius. Now, whoever thought of this, the day I saw this logo, I was like, wow, people have imagination. It's very simple, very subtle, but profound. Right, let's talk about Steve Jobs now. As you all know, he was an American businessman, a pioneer of the personal computer era who co-founded Apple and transformed it into one of the world's most successful companies. We lost him on this day at the age of 56. Stephen Paul Jacobs, his full name, was an American business magnate, industrial designer, investor, and media proprietor. He was the chairman, chief executive officer, and co-founder of Apple Incorporated, the chairman and majority shareholder of Pixar, a member of the Walt Disney Company's board of directors following its acquisition of Pixar, and the founder, chairman, and CEO of Next. Jobs is widely recognized as a pioneer of the personal computer revolution of the 1970s and 1980s, along with Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak. Jobs was born in San Francisco, California, and put up for adoption. He was raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. He attended Reed College in 1972 before dropping out the same year, and traveled through India in 1974, seeking enlightenment and studying Zen Buddhism. His declassified FBI report states that he used marijuana and LSD while he was in college, and once told the reporter that taking LSD was one of the 2 or 3 most important things he had done in his life. That's interesting. Jobs and Wozniak co-founded Apple in 1976 to sell Wozniak's Apple I personal computer. Together, the duo gained fame and wealth a year later with the Apple II, one of the first highly successful mass-produced microcomputers. So, we're remembering Steve Jobs today, who gave us the iPhone, Apple computer, and a whole lot of other things. The iPad, not so popular these days. Yeah, and for me, he's an inspiration for me. I don't know about you. Whatever you set your mind to, work hard, work diligently, enjoy it above all. As long as it's something you enjoy, don't give up on your dreams, and they will surely come true one day. So, on that note, guys, I shall end this edition of Today in History. I hope you have learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. I have learned something, a lot actually, from history. And I'm hoping that the mistakes that others have made before us are not repeated. And the struggles that they had, we're likely to have as well, as long as we are focused on our destination. All right, guys, give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and share this video with your family and friends. Also, subscribe by clicking the notification bell so that you receive updates of my video uploads. Thanks again for dropping by. I shall see you tomorrow, the 6th of October, for another edition of Today in History. My name again is Sotonie Afiesima. Stay safe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.